You are watching Access LaPorte County Channel 97. Coming up next is the April 25th meeting of the Michigan City Water Works Board. You can find more information for this meeting at www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Call the meeting of the Water Board to order. Approval of minutes from April 4th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the previous board meeting held April 4th, 2023.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second, we approve the minutes from April 4th. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Purchase orders.
Before you have a list of 12 purchase orders. The first one is to Midwest Meter. This is 1-inch curb stops for stock, $1,424.52. The next one is to Fastenal. This is marking paint for locating our water mains. This is a confirming order, $1,078.80. The next is to Vertical Custom Creation. This is fall and winter concrete repairs for any concrete that we had to dig up over the winter for main breaks, service leaks, that kind of thing. $10,680. The next is to Compress Air. This is an air compressor for the head house building. This was in our capital plan. Capital plan originally called for 2, and we were able to drop it down to just 1 of these. The purchase order amount is for $16,720.
What's the head house building?
That's the main filtration plant building. It's the older building.
Mhm.
And this air compressor operates valves. It's a important piece of equipment for us. The next one is to Dixon Engineering. These are tank inspections for Paz and Carroll Avenue. Regular process of having them inspected for $9,250. Number 6 is to Fedwa. This is to power wash the Paz and Carroll Avenue tanks for $21,100. And we're saving some money there because they're going to be here anyway. They did the paint job on the tank at the plant, and there's a couple of repairs that they need to do there under warranty. And so they're going to do those, and since they're already going to be here, it saves us quite a bit of money from the next bid was almost, I think, $10,000 more. And you don't even want to know what the third bid was. It was over $90,000.
90.
Yeah. Don't know why. They should have known. I mean, it's a simple job. I thought this amount was a little high compared to last time I had a tank wash, but it's been a few years since I pulled that price to the one month. And this is for 2 tanks, so this isn't just 1 tank. The next item is to M&K Truck. This is truck number 9 service work and lights. They did an oil change, did some inspections for DOT and stuff. Plus they fixed an issue with the lights. $1,493.74. This is a Mack truck, big dump truck that we have, so nothing's inexpensive when it comes to that. The next item is to Spring Lake Sales. This is a back racking installation of toolbox on truck 20. Apparently the rack that we had purchased was one that apparently had to be installed before the bed was put on the truck. So why that happened, I don't know. So we ended up getting a different one, and that's going to be installed. And then we'll send the other one back and get reimbursed for it. And then, so that's $1,045. Next item is to Leaps for copper. This is copper tubing for service line work. This is for inventory for $3,621.40. The next item is to Signature Lawns. This is for dune restoration. This is for the water main installation project out on by Kemmel Beach for the National Park Service. to get this properly revegetated with appropriate grasses and to keep it from eroding. So they have to cover that whole space for $34,365.20. But we have plenty of money from what they paid us to do this job to cover this. So it's not an issue there. The next item is to Ferguson. This is repair clamps for stock for $1,800. And then the last one is to McCann for a hydraulic leak on our number 2 case backhoe. So that's all. And that's for $1,265.25.
I'll make a motion to approve the approval of purchase orders.
I'll second.
Motion second, we approve the purchase orders in the amount of $103,843.91. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, the claims.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the list of claims dated April 25th, 2023.
Second it.
Motion second, we approve the claims dated April 25th. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Water main extensions for Woodland Ridge Frontage.
I broke this up into 2 separate line items, but in all reality, all of it can be combined together. So all of the information is all in here in this one packet that I gave you guys. Basically, what we have is a 114 lot subdivision that is coming to Michigan City. These guys are very active in pursuing this. They're obviously they were trying to get their subdivision approved already. There's some stuff they have to do there, but basically for us, they would be required to bring the water main from the intersection of Woodland and Paz Road, because that's where we end right now. And they would have to bring it all the way south to their south property line on frontage out on the street. That's our requirements for any of these subdivisions. And then they're doing phase 1, which if you look at this drawing, not easiest to see, but phase 1 includes the northern east-west street and the east-west cul-de-sac, all the lots that are facing those. But then it also, for the purpose of water main installation, is also going to include a portion of phase 3 because they're going to loop this, so it's not a big long dead end for a long time. So this water main will be looped for water quality purposes. In total, that will allow, from our perspective, would allow access to water for 66 lots for phase 1. For the frontage road, we had to quote that the materials at 8-inch size. If you remember the state law change that occurred, so we had to, and because 8-inch would suffice for what they were looking to do, we'd have to quote it at 8-inch. But then we have to pay the additional charge for upsizing, which, you know, is pretty typical activity. We've done that in the past. There are 11 potential customer properties on the west side of Woodland and 1 on the east side. The one property up at the corner of Woodland and Paz, it already has frontage on Paz, so that one doesn't get included for the revenue refund that we have to do under the state law. And then the 11 potential properties are on the, like I said, on the west side. The properties, the lots that they have in the subdivision are getting counted under the phasing of the subdivision. They're not counted for the revenue refund for the frontage portion. They'll get counted as the phases occur. The frontage maintenance is 1,278 feet. We would be looking at upsizing from 8-inch to 16-inch. That falls in line with our long-term planning. That eventually that 16-inch main will go all the way down to County Road 400 and tie into the 20-inch main that is at Cleveland and 400 down in the future.
What kind of houses are they? Single family?
These are single-family, moderately priced homes. My understanding is that the prices are supposed to be in the mid-200s for these.
Oh.
So, which is a housing stock that the city doesn't really have much of.
Mhm.
And my understanding is it's the first moderately priced residential subdivision in like 50 years.
Probably.
So, definitely a positive thing, I think, for the city.
Good.
Yeah, for sure.
Good.
And definitely for us as well.
How about that neighborhood, Lindsay Lane? You don't service them, right?
Lindsay Lane.
Do they have city water there?
No, they're
They
in
will?
the county,
Yeah, yeah,
and they have
right.
wells.
right?
The only people that could get water are the ones that are on Paz, at the corner of Paz and Lindsay.
Okay.
Now, the folks on Lindsay Trail or Lindsay Lane want water, they
Right.
can do like the folks on Twilight and
Uh-huh.
Whitefoot did, and pay a portion towards a water main installation. But I haven't heard from anybody that they're interested.
Wow.
Sooner than later you will,
Maybe.
maybe.
Some folks like their well water. So,
They're used to that.
yeah. Part of the reason why we had so much activity over in that area is that the contamination issue ended, and all those folks had filters, and when those filters were pulled out, they got to see what their water was really like on their wells.
Okay.
So they said, oh, no, we want city water.
Yeah, hello.
Wow.
But if you're used to it, then yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
So, for the frontage water main, the entire price is $267,529 is our estimate. The materials for the 8-inch are $103,666. For the 12 properties of the 3-year revenue requirement, $13,200 is deducted. The developer's portion would be $90,466. And then the department's portion with the upsizing is $177,063, and that's with us installed. So we're not hiring a contractor to do this install. If we did not upsize it, the department's portion would be $47,606. So, let's see. And then on the first phase of the subdivision, the estimated cost, because we're looking at quite a bit more water main, 14,007 feet of 6-inch, 1,407 feet of 6-inch and 1,451 feet of 8-inch, 14,000 feet. And so that comes out to a total installation cost of $268. The material estimate for that phase is $193,455, but the 3-year revenue requirement for the 66 properties is $72,600. When that's deducted, the developer's portion would be $120,855, and the department's portion, including labor and value revenue requirement, is $141,413. I will say for the developer's portion of the water main installation, normally we would have engineering added to that, but because they already have their own engineer designing the streets and sewer and they can design the water too, they're paying for it directly instead of paying us to pay somebody else to do it. So, So overall, the developer would pay $211,321 to us and their engineering. And then the department would be paying $318,476 in labor and materials. Of course, it's our own labor, so it's personnel we're going to be paying one way or the other. So basically, for these two items, we have 4 decisions to make. The first is whether the board's interested in servicing the subdivision. The second is to approve quoting the amount of $90,466 for the extension along Woodland. And the third is whether to upsize the main along Woodland. And the fourth is to approve quoting the amount of $120,855 for the phase 1 portion of the subdivision. So I guess, do we want to do those in individual motions, or do you want to combine things? It's up to you guys.
We combine them for any reason why we can. All right, any questions or discussion?
When is this supposed to be completed?
Well, while we were having the preliminary meetings with the developer, he asked me how much it was going to cost to bring his checkbook. So they're pretty hot to go. So I suspect that once they get their approvals through the city for the subdivision and all that stuff, we'll be moving quickly into detailing the design, and then shortly thereafter I should have a purchase order pulled together for material purchase they'll have, they have to go through the entire design process, and then we have to submit a notice of intent to the state, and that's a 30-day window after you supply that notice to the state. And then once that notice is supplied to the state and everything's approved, there's no issues, we can start construction shortly thereafter. And then at that point, it's just going to be a matter of coordinating between their engineering and our construction to get everything marked out, laid out, and so that we can install the water main at the right depths based on what the final grades are going to be.
And we're gonna have enough materials, or order enough materials to cover all that?
Yeah, the materials. So if they pay us, when they pay us, we'll order the materials like we normally do. The good news is that material turnaround has vastly improved.
Excellent.
Good.
I mean, keep in mind, if this goes as they say, it's 114 lots of moderately priced housing, which is great for
Yes, it is.
Michigan City.
Yep,
Right.
yes.
I mean, it's a slam dunk.
Yep, that is.
If no one
Can
has
we
any
approve
question, okay.
4 and 5 together?
We can do the whole thing together if we want. Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the water main extension quote for Woodland Ridge frontage, as well as Woodland Ridge frontage phase 1.
Would that include the upsizing?
That would include the upsizing, all 3, or was it 3 or 4 points?
4
points.
decisions.
All 4 points that you brought up.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second that we follow the superintendent's recommendation for 4 points for the Woodridge subdivision. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
I'll let you know.
For good things.
It's a good thing we made that decision to hire that extra.
Yes.
Under old business, the State Board of Accounts audit was completed. I think they pretty much finished up last week. We did have a brief phone call today to discuss some of the comments. I can't go into details, obviously, until the report is made public. We do have a meeting, Ken, you're planning to be at that tomorrow, and it is our exit conference for the State Board of Accounts meeting. So I just wanted to give you an update on that. That's part of the reason why the finances weren't prepared by the end of the month, because Chris was dealing with that.
Gotcha.
That's all I had under old business.
All right. New business.
Okay, under new business, I sent a note about a potential lawsuit that a law firm out of Indianapolis is trying to pull together for multiple water utilities. This is in regard to, they're called PFAS. They're perfluoroalkyl chemicals or polyfluoroalkyl chemicals, basically the material that they use to make Teflon, fire resistant and water resistant clothing, and then also like the firefighting foam that they use at airports. Well, for years they used these chemicals, and the reason why they did so well in those environments is because they didn't react. Which is great for that, but really bad in the environment. And so this has been a big issue as of late because they are carcinogenic. We do not know where our status is yet. We have testing that's starting this coming month, and we will know exactly our status. The good news is that we have the filters already that do the removal of this. So if there is some in the lake, we should be removing it in our filters. But this attorney wants to discuss joining, see if we'd be interested in joining in on this. So what I would be asking with the board is to allow Barry McDonald and I to discuss with this attorney, and then once we have this conversation with the attorney about this, bring it to you guys. That obviously would end up being in an executive session because it would be pending litigation, unless we decide not doing anything with it. But basically, the concept it's similar to a basically it's similar to a class action, except that apparently every utility that gets involved will have the opportunity to vote whether to accept any settlement that occurs. The intention is to obtain funds for long-term modifications and maintenance and operations to try and offset additional costs that may occur because of these chemicals. For example, if you had to change your filtration system, which we don't, but the material that we clear out of the water would contain it, and that has to be disposed of in a specific manner, and that may draw additional charges and additional costs to the department. So the intention would be to, if possible, offset those additional costs instead of those being borne by the ratepayers.
Who's the defendant in this case?
All of us would be the plaintiffs.
Right.
The defendants appears it's going to be companies like DuPont and the others that manufacture this product. Basically, all I'm asking for at this point is to allow Barry to have this conversation with me and this person, and then bring it back to you and let you know what we're thinking.
We don't need to vote on that, do we? Just need a consensus.
Probably just a consensus would work, yeah, because you're just authorizing us to use the attorney for.
Unless you want to.
Is there an additional fee to Barry for him having this meeting, or is he already?
He charges us his hourly rate when he does stuff for us, so.
I don't see anything.
When are we gonna find out if we were affected?
That's gonna be the tricky part. So my understanding is that the testing does take a while to get results.
Yeah.
There is my understanding also is that the deadline to join into this is apparently supposed to be mid-June.
Oh, okay.
So there may be a point where, we don't really know where we're at yet, But if we suspect that we're gonna have, we can join in and pull out of it a lot better than if we don't join in because we can't join in afterwards. So that's something to think about.
I just had a random question as we were going along talking about Teflon and PFAS. Is Teflon found that, can it be is that categorized as PFAS?
So they've changed what they make Teflon out of
Right, okay.
over the last
Yes, I hope
20
so.
some years. So what's in your frying, if you bought a frying pan set today, what's in there isn't the same as what we're talking about. We're talking about much older stuff. So if you have like a 30-year-old Teflon frying pan, it might be in that. But if you use it properly, it's probably not an issue. It's when it gets disposed of.
It's what?
It's when it gets disposed.
Sure,
So-
sure, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this stuff doesn't break down in the environment in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
So, my opinion is proper disposal is actually requires incineration. So,
So when they're
Keep our
testing for,
options, then
so when they're testing for PFAS, or, they're talking about the little plastics that's all of a sudden
no, this
being
isn't the
talked.
microplastics. That's a whole nother top. That's
okay.
a whole different pollutant.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay, well, there you go.
And the microplastics actually occurs because plastic does eventually break down in the environment. It's extremely slow, but it does eventually break down, and then it becomes smaller and smaller
Smaller,
pieces,
yeah.
and then the fish ingest it and that sort of thing.
Well, that's just gross.
it might make some sense to keep our options open as long as we don't make it a colossal case a whole week's worth of various time. I mean, something where you can
Yeah.
call, get us in. We can always leave the class action if we don't have results that bear out us getting
Oh, good idea.
a remedy, but
Right, and then officially, it's not even a class action. It's officially called a multi-jurisdictional, multi-district case.
okay.
Is it because of Lake Michigan?
Well, Michigan actually already put requirements in place for PFAS removal, but their limits are actually a little bit higher than what the federal government is currently suggesting. Just a few weeks ago, the federal government, through the EPA, put out a potential maximum contaminant level for PFAS, even though we don't even really, a lot of us don't know what we have yet because we're still in the testing process. But they made the limit 0.04 parts per trillion. And that number is so low because that's basically the bottom, that's the lowest level they can test it at.
I was just curious if like Porter County, Lake, if any of them.
Everybody that, what we're doing right now, it's called unregulated contaminant monitoring. And every so often, the EPA pulls together a list of chemicals that are not regulated, but have the potential of being a problem in drinking water. And they ask, well, they don't ask, they tell us to test for them.
Yeah.
We, as a larger utility, we have to pay for the testing. Really small utilities, they actually pay for the testing. But basically what's supposed to happen out of that is they're supposed to explore the concept of, okay, do you have it in your finished product? Do we have that in our finished product? As I said, because we have the type of filters we have, my guess is that we're in pretty good shape.
Okay.
The filters we have are the kind that you would need to have. But for us, my biggest concern is disposal of the waste from filtering. So when we backwash, the solid particles that we collect out of the backwash may not be able to go to the sanitary district like they do today. We may have to find another way to dispose of them. So that's what so in addition to getting a sample of our finished water, we're actually sampling, out of our department's funds, we're sampling the raw water, which is the lake water. We're sampling through multiple points throughout our treatment process to find out if there's any one particular spot that could be an issue.
Okay.
So Hopefully there isn't, and hopefully we don't have to worry about this, but it's all new and it's moving really fast. I didn't even know that that the EPA was putting something out this quickly, because I figured that's why we were doing the contaminant monitoring testing that we were doing. That's usually the process. We do these UCMR tests, all the results get back, the EPA looks at the results and comes out and says, okay, we're going to regulate this, we're going to regulate that. But this is kind of a little backwards.
Well, I'm all for it. I'm all for having the meeting for Barry to.
I had a question about the sampling. It's a sampling when I saw one of the employees come down a couple months ago with bottle, it's kind of old-fashioned looking bottle and case, and it had all these
Oh.
samples that he got.
Well, that's
from-
different, that was different
that's-
sampling we were doing, but same concept.
Okay,
Yeah, they're sending us special bottles just for this test.
yeah.
All right, I think, go ahead with it.
I'm for it.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'm
Sounds
for
good.
it.
Okay. This is another item that I want to bring to your attention. As you remember, back early in the year, we were asked to provide additional compensation towards the
Mayor.
mayoral salary, $10,000. We did that resolution at the beginning of the year,
Yes,
or at the end of last year, I guess it was.
yes.
There is a conversation occurring, I believe that there's an intention right now for the city to possibly hire an engineer. And we've been asked if, as a department, we would contribute $20,000 towards the salary benefit costs for the city engineer. So of course, the first question I have is the first question I'm sure you guys all have is, what do we get out of it? My understanding is that there may be a key candidate identified on this, and I have spoken to that key candidate. And with the personnel that we have, this candidate would be willing, if our personnel gather the data for a project, if we need to do a water main extension, we can gather all the data, do the design, develop, plan it all out, lay out the design, and this person would apply their PE stamp to it, so it would be, so we wouldn't have to possibly hire out outside engineering for some of the smaller projects. Now, if we have a really big one, we're not doing that. So, like for example, when we get around to doing this extension out there in the Highway 20 annexation area, when that goes, that's too big for what we're talking about. This is more like a small stretch, like the Twilight Project or the Whitefoot Project, something small like that, where we can gather all the data and we do have we did hire Daryl on, and he has AutoCAD experience, so I can supply him with AutoCAD and he can actually put the draft drawings together. And so there's a way to save us some money
Good.
if we agree to do it and this actually happens.
Okay.
So we're paying $20,000 to get a stamp when we need.
Well, we pay currently $30,000 to $40,000 for a water main project. So a couple of small projects we could definitely pay out. The $20,000 we're paying towards this would be paid because we'll be able to use our other personnel that are already here.
Yeah.
Are other departments being asked for the money?
My understanding is sanitary is being asked, yes. The other departments
same
are
amount?
through the taxes, so they're.
For the same amount?
Yes. So the question is this the board interested in developing, and we would have to do another resolution, and then my suggestion would be if this goes forward and this continues on, that like we've discussed for this 10,000, it becomes part of our pilot and gets added to our pilot. And instead of, right now, we do $444,000 a year to the city as payment in lieu of taxes. So these would just be added to that instead of being a separate line item, separate invoice, or separate payment.
Will it be yearly? I mean, where they come back and ask every year? Is that how this one was set up too?
That's the understanding I have at this point, yes.
I think this sets a precedence where they keep coming to us for, as Picky Bank, to pay for people's salaries on the off chance they might sign off. I mean, I don't know.
Well, and that'd be that's the only way I was okay with it, because normally in the past the city engineers that have worked for the city, well, first of all, they've only been part-time,
Yeah.
so you didn't even have time to do what they needed to do for the city, let alone anything for
Right.
us. So that's the only reason I concede to participate in this, is if we did receive
Would that be in writing? Would that be in writing at all? I mean,
I would think we would have to have that because in the event that, let's say, this key candidate isn't the person, or this key candidate leaves and goes elsewhere, another person comes on, we would have to have assurance that the next person is going to be willing to do that as well. And that's assuming this whole thing happens. I don't know at this point.
What are the benefits to the city? I mean, they obviously get benefits from bringing in an engineer.
The city needs full-time engineering desperately.
They don't have the funds to pay for it.
I've been in a couple of communities of similar size, and they've had in full-time engineering personnel. When you have this much activity going on, it would be definitely beneficial to the city to have somebody with that capability, because you pay a lot of money when you're hiring an outside contractor to do it. I mean, you still have to hire an outside contractor for big projects, just the same as, if we're talking about a big water main extension, we're probably not going to have our guys trying to figure it out. That'd be too much for them. But for these little, 1 block, 2 block down the street kind of jobs where we got, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 feet of pipe in a relatively flat, simple area, this is the kind of place where we could potentially save some money by doing it in-house and then getting it stamped in-house.
So he would review and certify?
Yeah.
Is that?
So it's a question of due diligence. So there are engineers that don't like other people doing that unless these people work specifically for them. But obviously we're not offering that. We're offering our people to do our projects, and all we're asking him to do is look it over. We've done all the due diligence. We found all of the things that we can find, that anybody could find, even, because the guys that we have great experience at doing this. So as far as the gathering of the data, the design process, that part's actually, it's not that hard. But you have to have a PE license in order to sign off on it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've drawn up, I don't know how many water main projects, but I don't have a PE license, so I still have to have somebody sign off on it if they trust me, which I've had happen.
so you don't really know if this is going to happen yet? They're just maybe
I've been asked to
trying to
approach
find
you
out
guys
how
to
they
find out
could.
if you would
Okay.
be interested, and if
Okay.
you are, then I can draw up a resolution item similar to how this is worded, except that it actually calls out that this person would have to be willing to assist us in that manner.
And the funding would be with the pilot program.
And yeah, after the initial process, I think it should become part of pilot and just be absorbed into pilot instead of these individual situations. So that's up to you guys. I just thought I'd bring it to your attention. And if you'd like me to pull something together, more formal, if there's interest, then I can do that. Or if you want to table it, you can table it. It's up to you.
I don't think that would be a bad idea, table it, and maybe draw up something so we can review it. and-
Okay.
Yeah.
So we got a motion for, so we'll call that the motion for table. All right. Do we have to vote for tabling? I don't think.
That's never been brought up, so.
Okay.
Usually we do with the city council, just say second vote.
For the city council meetings.
Yeah, we table second vote.
Yeah, but this isn't a formal
Okay.
motion, is it?
No, basically at this point, I was just asking if the board had any interest in the concept, and then I would have to write up like I said, try and get with Barry to write up a resolution comparable to what we had for the mayors.
So do you see it as a benefit?
If they can sign off on projects for us, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But if that isn't a lot, if that person won't do that, then we have no benefit because generally speaking, the city engineer doesn't impact our activities.
Okay.
Right.
But couldn't we also, like, if they decide to hire that person because they need that person in the city, they hire them, and then if that person then says, "Oh, I'm agreeable to do these things for you," then we could do something similar to like what the mayor, or I'm saying the mayor, but then, because I mean, if they're asking us for $20,000, they're asking sanitary for $20,000, that's $40,000. I don't know what they're paying the person, but I bet we would get the commensurate percentage of time. We just get them signing off if they would agree to.
Well, and the signing off thing is, I mean, like I said, we pay a lot of money to have an engineering firm
Right.
do that for us.
But that is at arm's length, though.
Yeah, and like I said, if this was if we were doing complicated projects, I
Yeah.
wouldn't do this. This is only for the simple water main installs.
But I mean, we could always go down that road if they do get the engineer and say we'd like to ship in for whatever and see if they would do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
we're not on
that's-
the hook for their salary. Because once you make this resolution, can you pull it back next year?
Well, the intention would be that the salary, that it would be written up as, like we did here.
Annual.
So basically, we wrote this up for an annual,
Yeah.
as of annual review.
Like a trial.
And then-
Like a trial.
And then next year,
Trial
for this particular resolution concerning the mayoral salary, then it needs to be, so then the request for this coming year would be to be included in the pilot, and then we would just
Oh,
include it in
okay.
the pilot payments as opposed to having to send a separate check just for this.
Well, I definitely think the sanitation department will get more bang out of this than we will.
Probably.
They don't have the staff that we do.
No.
Well, since we have our liaison here,
Yes, I do have some public comment related to that. So when with the information that you got about the engineer, was that over the weekend, Friday?
I was, actually while I was at the AWWA conference, and I had to think about it a little bit before I brought it in.
Because I think things have changed.
Okay,
I personally am sponsoring an ordinance at our next meeting with a change. We're not doing maybe what you thought we were gonna do. So there's been a change since Friday
okay.
on how they're handling it. So I'm just gonna say that much. I don't know how much I can tell you or whatever.
You
But
mean for that position? You mean for that position?
concerning
okay, gotcha.
concerning
Yes,
this specific topic.
So us tabling it may not necessarily be a bad idea for me.
Yeah, I was kind of trying to nod my head,
Okay.
yes,
That
it's
answers
my turn to
that.
speak, but I'm like, yeah.
That answers it,
Because
okay.
I think like what you were talking about, I think things have changed.
Okay,
So other conversations have occurred and
Right, another.
I haven't been made aware of.
I know, I just looked to see who's on the carbon copy. Well, when our agenda comes out tomorrow, or everything is due for our agenda, and so our agenda comes out a couple of days after
I
that.
usually get it then.
And then you're gonna, see what.
okay.
Okay,
Okay,
that's, so we're gonna table. We'll table for now and then we'll see what happens.
Okay.
And I have another question. So, on this, Woodland Ridge, project, so you said you will be adding a few houses that are not like in the project, like already homes on, was it Paz Road?
No, the ones that
West
are on, they're on Woodland.
Oh, the one side of Woodland?
Yeah, and what we have to do is we have to provide, according to state law, we have to provide a 3-year revenue refund. There's a couple of different ways to do it. One of the ways is to only give it as properties are developed. But that means for the next 10 years, we have to watch and see when each one happens, and then we have to send a check to somebody every year for 10 years.
Are these already houses or no?
No,
Just-
well, there's some are houses and some are empty lots, and so what we have to do then, is we calculate empty property and houses, what's there, who might sign on, and if they sign on, we go ahead and just do the refund now, rather than trying to monitor it for the next 10 years. We also then split the cost, which we don't by law have to do, but we also want to encourage the development and growth. So we do that because then we control the project too. It's built to our specifications, our standards, and we monitor the quality control on it. Whereas if a developer is installing it, then we have to, it's kind of a battle back and forth sometimes with developers to get it done the way we want it
Yeah,
done.
so are those properties in the Civil City?
No,
And they are not on
the
sewer
west side.
either, are they?
there is a sewer running through there already.
Okay, but they are not in Civil City?
No,
All right, because I know that area is, there's a lot
on
of lines
the
there, yeah.
west side of Woodland is county. The east side is in the Civil City,
Okay,
where this project's going.
all right. Just kind of very curious, thank you.
All right, was there any other new business?
Our next meeting, the 2022 annual report will be in your hands.
All right, any additional public comments? Any comments from the directors?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the April 25th meeting of the Michigan City Water Board.
I'll second it.
Motion second, we adjourn.